There's a story you've been told, and a story that was buried. Today, we uncover the hidden origins of Yahweh. Before the Bible, before monotheism, before He was the one true God. The evidence is shocking, and it challenges everything we thought we knew about history. But what if I told you? Yahweh was not always alone. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and join us on this journey into the unknown. Because here at Enigmas and Mysteries, we are determined to uncover the truth. And remember, always question and seek deeper understanding. The earliest mentions of Yahweh. Before the Bible, before the temples, Yahweh's name first appears in ancient inscriptions outside of Israel. The oldest reference to Yahweh comes from Egyptian texts from the 14th century BCE, describing the land of the Shasu of Yahweh, a mysterious tribe worshipping a deity named Yahweh. But he was just one among many gods. These records suggest that Yahweh's earliest followers were nomadic people, possibly living in the deserts of Edom, Midian, and the Sinai Peninsula. Some theories suggest Yahweh might have originated as a storm god, similar to deities worshipped in Mesopotamia and Canaan. His name may have been linked to volcanic activity, fire, and violent natural forces. The biblical accounts of Yahweh appearing in fire and thunder echo this idea, suggesting that his earliest worshippers saw him as a god of destruction and renewal. But here's where things take a strange turn. In the Hebrew Bible, Yahweh is often associated with mountains, particularly Mount Sinai. Could it be that his early followers believed he physically resided on mountaintops, ruling over the elements? If Yahweh started as a lesser deity among many, how did he become the sole god of an entire religion? Yahweh among the gods, the Canaanite connection. Long before Israel, the land of Canaan was ruled by multiple gods. The highest god was El, the father of the divine council. Baal, Asherah, and others were worshipped alongside him. And Yahweh? He was not their supreme god, but a warrior deity. Ancient texts suggest that early Israelites did not reject these gods at first. They simply made Yahweh their own. In early versions of biblical texts, Yahweh is sometimes called El Shaddai, meaning God of the Mountain, a title once used for El himself. But here's where it gets even more controversial. In ancient inscriptions, Yahweh was sometimes worshipped alongside a goddess, Asherah. Archaeological discoveries, such as those at Kuntilat Ajrud, show inscriptions that read, Yahweh and his Asherah. Some scholars believe that Asherah was originally seen as Yahweh's divine consort, but later writings sought to erase her from history. So what happened to Asherah? Why did Yahweh go from being part of a pantheon to standing alone? The answer lies in one of the most dramatic religious transformations in history. The War of Gods, how Yahweh became supreme. Something changed. A revolution happened. The Israelites began erasing the old gods from their history. Baal and Asherah became enemies. Yahweh was no longer a regional deity. He was now the only God. But why? What forced this change? Scholars suggest that a political and religious shift led to the elevation of Yahweh over all others. Wars, exiles, and the destruction of Israelite temples led the people to seek a singular, all-powerful protector. Many historians believe that the transition to monotheism was not purely spiritual, it was political. By making Yahweh the sole deity, the religious elite could unify and control their people more effectively. This transition can be traced in biblical texts themselves. Some of the oldest writings still hint at Yahweh competing with other deities, whereas later texts portray him as the ultimate being. For instance, the prophet Elijah's confrontation with the priests of Baal on Mount Carmel, 1 Kings 18, shows Yahweh proving his superiority. This kind of narrative suggests a deliberate push to establish monotheism, but this transformation didn't happen overnight. Many early biblical texts still contain traces of a polytheistic past. For example, in Psalm 82, Yahweh is depicted among the divine council of gods, judging them. This suggests that monotheism was a later development. So the question is, Was this an evolution of faith, or was history rewritten to hide the truth? The lost texts and what they reveal. Ancient discoveries, like the Dead Sea Scrolls, hint that early Judaism was far more complex than we thought. Some texts describe Yahweh as a being of fire and storms, more similar to older gods of destruction than the all-loving deity we know today. Others suggest his role was rewritten over time, shaping him into something new. One of the most controversial findings. In early Israelite history, sacrifices were made directly to Yahweh, including human sacrifices. In the Bible itself, Yahweh demands Abraham sacrifice his son Isaac, though he later stops him. In Judges 11, Jephthah sacrifices his daughter as an offering to Yahweh. This suggests that early Yahweh worship may have been radically different from what we see today. The question is, why was this side of Yahweh erased? Some theories suggest that as Judaism evolved, older traditions that conflicted with newer theological ideas were removed. Stories were rewritten, laws were changed, and Yahweh's image was reshaped into the singular, omnipotent God we know today. The evolution of monotheism. The shift from polytheism to monotheism wasn't immediate. It was a process that took centuries. As Jewish scribes began compiling their sacred texts, Yahweh was elevated from a warrior god to a universal deity. Many scholars believe this transition was influenced by the Babylonian exile, when Israelites were exposed to the Zoroastrian idea of a single, all-powerful God. By the time the Torah was finalized, Yahweh had absorbed many of the attributes of older deities, including El, and emerged as the only true God of Israel. But was this a spiritual revelation, or a carefully constructed religious shift? Conclusion. A question left unanswered. From a forgotten war god to the ruler of all creation, Yahweh's story is unlike anything we were taught. But the real question is, if history erased the origins of Yahweh, what else has been hidden from us? Do you think Yahweh's true origins were covered up? Or was this simply the natural evolution of religion? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, make sure to subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and hit the notification bell. The darkness holds many secrets, and here at Enigmas and Mysteries, we are determined to uncover them all. And remember, always question and seek deeper understanding.